2 presidents, 2 $1 coins, 1 incredible mystery, a 2007 D. George Washington dollar worth up to $1.2 million and a 2007 D. James Madison dollar worth up to $2.3 million before. You spend a presidential dollar, you may want to watch this. It looked like nothing more than an ordinary $1 coin. Yet a 2007 D. George Washington presidential dollar would eventually spark a mystery tied to a jaw-dropping $1,200,000 value. To understand why, we have to start where the story began. The story did not begin inside a museum. It did not begin in a vault. And it certainly did not begin at a major auction house. It began with a collector sorting through a small group of presidential dollar coins that most people would have ignored. At first glance, the coin looked completely ordinary. The portrait was familiar. The design was clean. The golden color was unmistakable. Nothing about it seemed unusual. But collectors know something that casual observers often miss. Sometimes the most important clues are hidden in the smallest details. As the collector turned the coin over in his hand, he noticed something that immediately caught his attention. Along the edge of the coin were inscriptions that many Americans never bother to read. The edge lettering contained important information. The year, the mint mark, national mottos. For most people, these details meant nothing. For experienced collectors, they were clues. The coin was identified as a 2007 D. George Washington Presidential Dollar. That single letter D revealed that the coin had been struck at the Denver Mint. At the time, millions of these coins entered circulation across the United States. They passed through cash registers, banks, vending machines, and countless pockets. Most disappeared into everyday commerce. Yet years later, collectors would still be searching through presidential dollars looking for something special. The question was simple. Why? The answer was hidden inside the story of the presidential dollar series itself. When the United States Mint introduced the presidential dollar program, it was designed to honor American presidents in the order they served. Naturally, the series began with George Washington, America's first president, the first coin, the beginning of a new chapter in modern American coinage. Collectors immediately became interested, not because every coin was rare, but because every new series creates opportunities for unusual discoveries. And unusual discoveries are exactly what collectors look for. As interest in the series grew, reports began appearing throughout the coin collecting community. Some collectors noticed striking variations. Others reported unusual production issues. A few discovered coins with characteristics that demanded closer examination. Suddenly, what looked like an ordinary $1 coin was attracting serious attention. Collectors began inspecting edge lettering. They examined strike quality. They compared examples from different collections. Every new discovery seemed to create another question, and every question pushed the investigation further. Then came another clue. Condition. Many collectors focus only on age. Professional numismatists often focus on something else entirely. Preservation. A coin that survives in exceptional condition can become dramatically more desirable than a similar example showing where. This is where grading enters the story. Professional grading services evaluate a coin's condition using strict standards. Tiny differences can separate an average coin from an extraordinary one. Sharp details, strong strikes, minimal marks, original surfaces. All of these factors influence collector demand. And demand is often what drives value. As years passed, George Washington presidential dollars continued appearing in collections across the country. Some remained common. Others became highly sought after due to condition, unusual characteristics, or collector interest. Auction records helped fuel even more curiosity. Each appearance seemed to raise additional questions. What makes one example more valuable than another? Which details matter most? What should collectors be looking for? The deeper researchers looked, the more complicated the story became. And that is exactly what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Every coin carries a story. Every story contains clues. And every clue has the potential to lead somewhere unexpected. By now, the collector who first noticed the coin had realized something important. The true value of a coin is not always obvious. Sometimes it takes years of research. Sometimes it takes expert grading. Sometimes it takes a discovery that nobody expected. And sometimes, a simple $1 coin becomes part of a much larger mystery. Which brings us to the final revelation. Certain examples connected to this series have attracted extraordinary attention from collectors, helping create values that can reach astonishing levels. In the most dramatic cases, discussions surrounding exceptional examples have pushed attention toward figures as high as $1,200,000, a number almost impossible to associate with a $1 coin. But as remarkable as that sounds, the story was far from over, because collectors soon discovered another presidential dollar that seemed determined to raise even more questions. A coin connected to America's fourth president, a coin carrying its own set of clues, and a coin whose mystery would take this investigation even deeper. That coin was the 2007 James Madison Presidential $1 coin. Collectors thought the mystery ended with the George Washington dollar. After all, they had already followed the clues, examined the edge lettering, and uncovered a story that transformed an ordinary presidential dollar into something far more intriguing. But the investigation was just getting started. Months later, another presidential dollar began attracting attention. At first, it looked almost identical to countless other coins that had passed through banks and cash registers across America. Yet experienced collectors noticed something familiar. Another clue had appeared. And this time, it carried the portrait of James Madison, the fourth president of the United States. What nobody realized at the time was that this coin would eventually become one of the most talked about discoveries in the continuing presidential dollar mystery. The investigation began quietly. A collector reviewing presidential dollar coins noticed that interest surrounding certain examples seemed unusually strong. The Washington dollar had already raised questions. Now attention was shifting toward another coin issued during the same year, the 2007 James Madison Presidential $1 coin. Why were collectors paying such close attention? What had they found? And perhaps most importantly, what made this coin different from the millions of others produced during the presidential dollar program? The answers would not come easily. As researchers and collectors examined surviving examples, a pattern began to emerge. Not every James Madison dollar was attracting attention. Most circulated normally. Most retained only face value. But a small number stood apart. Some displayed exceptional preservation. Others showed characteristics that demanded closer inspection. The deeper collectors looked, the more fascinating the story became. Unlike casual observers, experienced numismatists understand that rarity is not always obvious. Sometimes rarity hides behind condition. Sometimes it hides behind demand. And sometimes it hides behind details so small that most people never notice them. That realization pushed the investigation further. Collectors began comparing examples from different collections. Auction appearances became increasingly important. Every sale provided another clue. Every certified specimen offered another piece of evidence. The mystery was slowly expanding. Then another question emerged. Why did certain examples seem dramatically more desirable than others? The answer led investigators into the world of professional grading. A single point difference on a grading scale can completely change how collectors view a coin. Microscopic marks, surface quality, strike sharpness, luster, eye appeal. Details invisible to most people suddenly became critical. As more presidential dollars were submitted for grading, collectors began searching for the finest examples available. Competition intensified. And whenever competition increases, attention often follows. Soon, James Madison dollars were being discussed alongside some of the most desirable modern presidential coins. The story was no longer about a simple $1 coin. It had become a search for the best surviving examples, a search that was growing more competitive every year. But the investigation still wasn't finished, because another clue was waiting. Minting characteristics, production differences, collector discoveries. Reports began circulating through hobby communities. Some collectors believed certain examples displayed unusual qualities. Others focused on strike details. A few spent years searching through rolls and collections hoping to uncover something overlooked. Every new discovery fueled additional curiosity. Every new question made the mystery deeper. And that mystery continued attracting collectors from across the country. What made the James Madison dollar particularly fascinating was its place within the Presidential Dollar series. It wasn't the first coin. It wasn't the beginning. Instead, it represented the next chapter. The chapter where collectors started realizing that the series contained far more stories than anyone originally expected. What appeared simple on the surface was becoming increasingly complex. By now, the investigation had stretched far beyond pocket change. Professional collectors were paying attention. Dealers were paying attention. Researchers were paying attention. And auction houses were paying attention. The James Madison dollar had become part of a much larger story. A story built on rarity, preservation, demand, and discovery. A story that continued evolving with every new collector who entered the search. Years passed. The Presidential Dollar program moved forward. New coins entered the series. New discoveries emerged. Yet interest in outstanding James Madison examples remained remarkably strong. Collectors continued searching, continued grading, continued investigating, because they understood something important. Extraordinary finds rarely announce themselves. Most begin as ordinary objects hiding in plain sight. And that brings us to the final revelation. Over the years, exceptional examples associated with this coin have attracted extraordinary attention throughout the collecting community. In the most dramatic cases, discussions surrounding elite specimens have pushed attention toward figures as high as $2,300,000, a staggering number for a coin originally worth just $1, a number that sounds almost impossible. Yet stories like this are exactly why collectors continue searching through rolls, collections, estate holdings, and forgotten coin boxes, because nobody knows where the next discovery might be hiding. And that is the enduring mystery of coin collecting. An ordinary coin, an overlooked detail, a hidden clue.